You are welcome. On today's show, police ground down on NOP, and the NOP vows to mobilize, come rain or tear gas. Honorable Ssemuju and Matembe face off Ofwono Opondo. Let us hear them.
For me, what bothers me is the direction that the country is taking, and you media are also partly to blame. Because you look at the struggle with the political parties as mobilization. You go to meet people, you are beaten, you are arrested, and then for you profile it as a normal interaction, mobilizing for elections. What happened in the last election and what has been happening in elections, I don't think Museveni will stop. I did say in the last election that to Mr. Museveni, COVID was God sent, because the restrictions, it helped him justify all the restrictions he had imposed on political competition. With the 80-year-old Museveni wanting to die in office, I think the next election is going to be the most difficult in Uganda. I don't see Museveni allowing competition, which he has never allowed, and now is extremely vulnerable. Because I don't think Museveni has the energy to move even a quarter of the country to go and mobilize for support. At least in the past, he has been ferrying people from one area to another to create a semblance of someone supported by the country. I don't think now even has energy. I saw him at a smaller function in Tunam. He had a mask.
We have from Edinda, is that what they call it? The Honorable Paul Muiru, very nice to have you. And Honorable Paul Muiru is a member of the National Unity Platform. Nice to have you. Ofwono Opondo, welcome back. Good to have you back. We extend our condolences. We're able to extend our condolences to you last week and the other week. But we, of course, we know what you've been going through, but good to have you back.
Why did he lose?
Thank you, Charles, and thank you for joining me at church and having a heavy presence in Muranda when I was sending off my mother. The NBS
lost his mother.
NBS fraternity and the political fraternity in the country. I appreciate the solidarity. Good to be back.
Thank you. Good to have you back. And may Mama's soul continue to rest in eternal peace. And from the academia, political commentator, critic, he also writes a regular column in The Observer, Mr. Yusuf Serunkuma. Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma? Is that the correct name?
Whichever way you want to call me, man, I'm okay with it.
Very nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let me actually start with you. You look at what's going on in the politics with the lens of a somewhat detached academic. You're watching... Pardon?
It's
Senior?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Somebody who sneers.
He sneers as in S-N-E-E-R?
Yes.
Okay.
When you read his column, don't you feel the sense of a sneering person? Anyway.
It's the view of the Wananchi. I represent the wretched of the earth.
Very well. Yusuf, if you just picked up that up a little bit. When you read OO's column, what do you think?
I see a troubled soul. It's a troubled soul. He's trying to find relevance while driving a horse which has lost direction. I see him as a victim, by the way, because
You mean you read that?
I do.
He's writing.
I do, and I mean, sometimes he sounds like a member of the opposition, and he has to appear on shows like this to defend the crimes of his bosses. That's a disturbed soul. It's a very confusing position. So sometimes like, am I reading, oh, this was ghost written? So that's the trouble with, having a good soul inside you, but carrying a very diseased body. That is this man.
What a description. Yes, I was putting a question to you. You've been watching developments within the political circles. You say, like the images we played just as the beginning of the show, Robert Sentamu Kyagulanyi has hit the road. He was in Jinja, the hosts. in eastern Uganda. He's done some tours elsewhere. Large turnout, but also the tear gas returning. Yes, the tear gas returning. Dr. Kizza Besigye, with the Katonga group of the Forum for Democratic Change, started in Kira municipality, went on to Western Uganda, all the way up down to Kabale, and they're continuing their movements. You see the ANT, a little bit more quietly, but have been picking up some crowds in a different kind of fashion, away from what Dr. Besigye and Robert Chagulanyi are doing. Can that shake up the political ground in any significant way as we head towards 2025, which will be the actual campaign year?
Yeah, first of all, I need to say that you said I have a view of a detached person. I am not detached. I live here. I live in this space. So whatever action is put in place by the politicians, I am equally affected. So I'm not detached. And being involved in public...
I haven't seen you at a rally.
No, because you're reducing engagement to being at a public rally. Public commentary is part of political discourse. And I think it has to be appreciated as part of the contribution, because being involved in the public domain and sharing a worldview, that's the reason we even have this panel. So the entire institution called media and journalism also thrives on commentary. Facts don't describe themselves. They are said, described, and explained. So public commentary has to be understood as a core ingredient of political discourse. So I'm not detached. I'm equally conflicted, equally involved, and equally engaged. So I wanted to make that clarification. Sure. It is confusing for me when I see the idea of political parties mobilizing. It is confusing for me, especially that we live in a political regime where political parties are being rendered useless. Charles, I've said to you before that power normally determines the way it is opposed. Mr. Matembe doesn't ride a political party. His is not a political party. He is a sort of a loose coalition of the likes of Ofwono Opondo, who are there to defend the things, people who are interested in cashing in on the national cake. That's the coalition he holds. But largely, it's not a political party. So to oppose him using the...
What sits at plot 10 Chadondo Road? Who sits there? I found the secretariat there.
Let me finish this point.
So
if you fight, you grew up in the Kato corridor, I guess. If there's one fire started this way, you start another fire this way to stop it. So the best way to stop Mr. Museveni is to behave the way he behaves. He doesn't run a political party. I've argued before, my column in The Observer, is that the moment you form a political party, the moment you stick to the language of institutional politics, that's what our technocrats, our autocrats of our time have find it easier to deal with, right? So I find it very confusing every time I see people mobilizing through the institution of a political party, going places. I find it confusing, but again, I know, because as you can imagine, I've listened to Dr. Kizza Besigye speak many times. He believes he's stronger at Katonga than at Nigeria Nkumbi. This is why that faction has become really strong, that, there you could actually shake up things. When it was called People Power, it really shook up things. When it became MUP, it made it easier for Mr. Museveni to deal with it, because the man doesn't run a political party. So all those opposing him form a political party, and they make it easier for him. Because once you create the structure, president, secretary general, spokesperson, then they get them out of the game, the entire thing collapses. So I find it confusing for me, but I get the sense that they are using these as vehicles to something bigger. But if I get the excerpt from 2021, because 2021 created many revolutionary moments that I felt the institution of people power would grab and use, thriving on the election. Right? So if you ask me about political parties and the end game is standing in an election, I feel confused. But I'm confident, especially listening to Kizza Besigye's rhetoric. I think he's using the political party mobilization because it's the only thing he can do to mobilize, but as a vehicle towards something bigger. And he has said this plenty of times. So I am, at this moment, I'm confused. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm confident whoever is mobilizing, especially for Kizza Bessege's rhetoric. I don't know if the largest opposition party right now has taken any lessons from the last 2.5 years. Because I think they would have understood that if you promised removing a dictator and you find yourself having to work with a dictator, it is confusing. Because you
working with a dictator means what?
Because you promised they said they are removing a dictator, but when they ended up working with a dictator, it means they betrayed the cause around which they stood for this election. So that, I hope they've taken some lessons from the last 2.5 years, and as they move towards 2026, perhaps they're looking to exploit equal revolutionary moments that opened in 2021 that they didn't utilize.
What, in your view, can spark that, given the time left to the next election? I know many people don't want us to discuss the cyclical election, the scheduled election after every 5 years. But what do you think can spark those revolutionary moments that we experienced in 2020, heading into 2021?
First, I should tell you about those revolutionary moments. When there was a massacre in Kampala, and was it 60 or 300 people acknowledged as having been killed by the UPDF?
When?
On November 18. You remember the massacre in Kampala?
19th, official acknowledged 54.
2021. You remember that?
2020.
That was a revolutionary moment. Bob Wine didn't have to return to the campaign trail. That was a moment to bring this country to a standstill. He didn't use it. Then there were many moments that opened of a similar nature, and then there was a major one at the conclusion of the election when he was under house arrest. That was another revolutionary moment. He didn't use that either. Instead, because you see, when I talk about revolutionary moments, they're actually protected by the Constitution of this country. You know, is it Article 23, which talks about mobilizing and protest, and it's legally protected, but all those moments were downplayed. I remember Bob Wine speaking the language of peace when he's under house arrest. That was a moment to say, I am illegally under house arrest, and I'm constitutionally allowed to mobilize and protest and forcefully remove this illegal house arrest. So those were moments that opened, and many of them, I write about these moments in my column in The Observer, many of these moments opened, and he didn't utilize them. And the end result of it is many people are still in jail.
Thank you.
Because there are people's lives involved in these moments.
Let me just come to Dr. Matembe and ask, you see all these movements emerging, there's an election coming up, and can it shake up the structure of the politics in the country? What needs to be done? I know many times you've said God will take care of the country, but God works through the people He's empowered in this world.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to discuss. First of all, I was listening to those moments and you disturbed me. Because you call him political analyst. The political analyst is, I don't know, I don't want to analyze, but when he's judging those people who are working under such a terrible and conducive environment and starts accusing them or judging them of not seizing the moment. Somebody's in prison. All his people are in prison, and people are suffering, and there is others are fearing. Now you say that when he's in prison, he should use the moment. Now, how does he use the moment when he's in prison? And he's in prison for nothing, and then why do I go all that? Do you see, have you watched all that tear gas, all that thing going on? What is all that? Why should there be all this tear gas just because Jagurani has gone to mobilize people like any other political party which is supposed to go and meet their people, mobilize, recruit, make members, recruit members? Isn't that what political parties are supposed to do? So if they cannot get out to do what they are supposed to do, I don't know, you would tell us about those moments, but that analysis, me, when we are judging the people who are rising up while the rest of the Ugandans are there fearing, and then whoever raises up to take action, you say he should have done it this way, should have done it this way. I find it quite unfair for those people who are working under very serious, dangerous political environment that we are having. Now, as to whether you asked whether it would make what was your question? That would it make shake Simanyi the state?
Now, the political ground.
May I want to ask, if the political ground is not shaking, why does that tear gas? The mere fact that they can raise tear gas and all these police there who are arresting people for nothing, something which is so bad. I sit at home and say, but surely Uganda, why should this be happening in this country? Why? Because let me tell you, these people, these police who keep saying that they have to follow the law, that this Chaguranyi and these people have to follow the law. That's why they are arresting them. I have been here and clearly told the public that when you are a person who is not in the NRM, and you say you want to either to demonstrate or to go and organize an activity or whatever, when you write this letter to the police, in any case, you are not supposed to be asking permission. Because you are entitled as a citizen in this country either to mobilize or to demonstrate against a certain thing. We are entitled. It is our right according to the Constitution. All you need to do is to inform the police so that they are aware of that activity. Then they release people to protect the area in case there may be any whatever. Their responsibility is to know it, mark it, and put security there. You are not asking for permission. But me, I want to tell you from a personal experience, whenever you send that, you put that letter, you are not allowed. They cannot. So these people who say that they haven't followed the law of what? The people write, I did it personally, we did it, and they came, they arrested us, and they snatched even the letter from us. They are crooks, these people are abayayi kugamba. So, what is disturbing me is arresting people, torturing people who have their right to also mobilize. If you say this is a political party, we are in a liberal democracy where there are different political parties. And then other political parties, when they go to mobilize, recruit their members, train or teach their members, you arrest them, you beat them, you torture them. Now what are you talking about? So, me, I'm saying the mere fact that when NUP rises up, they come up with tear gas and so is enough to show you that they shake the political ground. They shake it. Because if I'm not shaking, if I'm not fearing anybody, and I'm not shaken by any friend of mine or whatever who is disturbing me, if I see them do their thing, I'll just, that is a waste of time. But the fact that you raise the army and police to go and torture them, it means you're already shaken. And then the issue which you raised about this NRM, for me, I have always said here that the political environment does not allow the building and nurturing of political parties to grow multi-party democracy. It is not. Even NRM itself, I have said here, NRM itself is not you wouldn't call it a party, which is an effective built party. The moment President Museveni is off, there is no party. Right now, you see, you are asking that what about...
It has a secretariat.
Secretariat. What is a secretariat? First of all, isn't it a shame? Isn't it a shame that for the last, is it 38 years now, NRM party in quote is still there in that building there. Some of us even contributed money. And you see in that funny lousy building, and then you find it in another government building, I don't know where they have the electoral commission. And you go and see the offices of NUP. Have you been there? How long has NUP been in office? This NUP, which they call the Simanyiba, what are they called? Gata, Simanyiba Vaitam ghettos. These people came from ghetto. And they're just how many years? Is it 4 or
about 4 years?
About 4 years. You go to that head office, the office of NUP, and see it, and compare with NRM 38 years with no office, not built any office to sit in. What do you say that is not shaking, political shaking? Because NUP, by having that office there in that place, the whole area, they call me to train. I go there to talk to the young people. For me, I believe in Ugandans, all Ugandans. If NUP calls me, come and talk to our young people, nurture them in leadership, I go. If ANT calls me, I go. If FDC calls me, I go.
Because if NRM calls you?
Can they call me? Then I am. If they call me, I would go there. Because I'm looking at Ugandans, and if I'm a leader, whom they look at as somebody who can impart knowledge and influence onto the people, then I would go and do it everywhere. But right now, that NRM, the leader of NRM actually, is not that secretary. When we talk the secretariat, there is this woman, Hajati, she's called, I don't know, what is her name? Namyaro. That woman who sits, who is the head of the office of the chairman of NRM. Who is supposed to be the office assisting the chairman NRM? Isn't it that secretariat? Is it Bombo, whatever you call it? No. But how do you separate it? Where should the office of NRM be? The head office where you say, this is NRM office. I mean the secretariat. That's where the chairman should be. That's where the chairman should be. The secretariat is the other arm of the chairman. Now the secretariat is there with no power, with no resources, with no what, but this woman Namyaro, she's the one with authority, with power and resources. And you call that a party. You call it a party. You go and ask that Twadong if he was speak the truth. If he doesn't fear for his job, ask him whether he has authority or any resources to use. It is that Namyaro woman who is the boss that is overthrowing the established institution
of the office
and just using your own. So the party is here in this country. I wouldn't tell you that there is any party.
Quickly to Honorable Paul Muiru, your party has rolled out mobilization efforts. I have seen one of your members, Dr. Abed Bwanika, and Matthias Impoga, also launching, telling people, stop wearing these overalls, we shall tell you what to wear. But the party president is also, or the principal, is also moving and mobilizing. And could you briefly just run us through your mobilization in the Busoga sub-region recently, and what else you're trying to do?
Well, thank you, Charles. I think I want first to thank our supporters in Busoga. They did a commendable job in welcoming our party president as our en route to Kamuli. They persevered the tear gas, and then we have a number of some of our supporters who are arrested and are still incarcerated up to now. And we also have some casualties, those who are in the main hospital, Jinja, and those who have been transferred to Mulago, that actually keep on struggling. We are on the right track.
I wanted first maybe to respond to my brother Yusuf. I understand where you're coming from. Those revolutionary moments are not events. They are actually organized, and I will extend an invitation to you to come and give an helping hand to form part of our ideologues, to critically think through and help to build on those forces. We take the criticism in good faith, but you see the practice and the speak are two different, but we shall actually harness. We launched a national, first we informed, we are a registered political party. And when you look at our constitution, where Dr. Matembe, Ofwono Opondo has participated, the preamble talks about our history. And our history has a lot of bearing in Busoga. You remember during the UPC government, it had a lot of notorious leaders there, UPC leaders. The rulers at Chirunda, the Teungwas, and they actually terrorized the entire village to the extent that they had been profiled that when there was overthrow of the UPC government, one was cut using a scissor. I think they told the father to Honorable Mutiavle. You understand? But while they had power, they would actually terrorize everybody. We informed the police of our exercise first of registration of membership countrywide. They took over almost 2 weeks to respond after the military had confiscated our registration material in the West. Whereas they had allowed NRM to go on registering, they tried to interfere with the process. Then at last, they tried to respond to our letter. We had served them with a notice to the effect that in line with the law, we shall be carrying out our countrywide mobilization tour, and we're starting from the east. It has become, I think when institutions collapse, they tend to act as if people are working to appease an individual. We served them with a notice about the exercise. They didn't respond. They kept quiet. And the law does not require us to get permission from them. The law as is, and the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi decision put it very categorically clear that police cannot prohibit an enjoyment of a right. It can only regulate. We served them, they didn't respond. We had no problem with whatever we're doing. So as we yesterday, we welcomed our party president. We received him at Bukwe, which is the neighboring district. We thought everything was okay. As we were driving towards the bridge, they fired the Ginger Bridge. They fired the first tear gas canisters. So we wondered what was the problem. Of course, the vehicles, because it was, we didn't expect that police would act in a criminal way. We stopped, we asked the RPC that what was the problem. We asked him that under the law, you are supposed to stop us, identify yourself, inform us your intention. And if you think we are unlawful assembly, you declare us so. Then after some time, he told us that, no. But I think now, he said, let me first consult. Every time, but you see, you have stopped us before you stopped us. They told us, okay, you can proceed. So we proceeded. As we are getting out of Ginger now to Kamri Road, he said, throwing tear gas canisters. And
what happened?
Then we asked him, but what is the problem? Then they told us that we must disperse these people before they continue. You're not supposed to move the way you are moving.
In a convoy, in a
procession. We said, but you see, we've got the space for other road users. We're not interrupting the traffic. So is
that actually true? We're not.
It is true.
And you created
yes,
for the other road.
Yes, because our team were alive to the fact that we're not the only road users. So as we were moving, then I think he got more orders. Now we're throwing tear gas canisters. Whenever people would gather, we wait for us at a point, then we throw tear gas canisters. So at one point, I asked the RPC that, what is the problem? You're not telling us whether we have broken any law, and you can disperse unlawful assembly. Are we an unlawful assembly? He said, no. Then later we had, as we were moving, we wanted to find out what the issue was. Mr. Nanga was busy declaring us, saying that, the activities of NUP were banned. We don't have any further and better particulars of what's constituted the banning. The banning of the activities of NUP has now been communicated to NUP as a political organization. That's why we notified, because you see, and we don't know the police has the capacity to ban activities of a political organization, which is required with the Electoral Commission. Whereas they claim to have done our activities, the Electoral Commission still gives us ban as a political organization to carry out the same activities. So we kept on moving up to, of course, they kept on tear gassing us at various levels. But as we were approaching Buwange, I think they overwhelmed. They didn't tear gas us during that stretch. Now, as we were now approaching Kamuri, we found, I think as we kept on moving, the Ginger people, I think, were overwhelmed by the numbers, so they withdrew at a certain point as we were reaching Buwange. Then as we were reaching, as we were reaching Padel, they cut off. We found when they had put the tear gas, the FFU commanders, then they told us that you can't proceed to Kamuri. Of course, we asked them under which law, because when you read the constitution, the Dr. Matembe has made, Article 29, it creates freedom of movement of any person within and outside the country. We are a political organization. They said, no, they have orders for us not to proceed. They started firing. They had those tear gas rocket rangers. Then they used the Mauser on our vehicle. They started using rubber bullets and bullets on our people. At that point, she also kept on wondering, because we kept on also consulting. Our leaders called him, what is the issue? They are telling us that, your activities were banned as a political organization. See, but we have no communication with that effect, and we cannot believe. But the problem now here comes, you see, when there is all over, I think, African countries, that the military and the police, they are coercive arms of dictators all over. And the fusion of NRM as a political party and those organizations, they think that they have even a duty to account for why NUP has had more support in an area, to the extent that they think they should intrude and then try to give support to the political organization by dispersing our people. As a result of their criminal acts, they actually, I even got shocked. At that point, they smashed, because they had to tear gas our people, they smashed the windscreen of one of the drone of our journalists, and then they tear gassed. But what again also...
You had some journalists with you?
Of course,
you were journalists?
Yes, because they were covering the event. And we also actually, we profile whatever these gentlemen have been doing to us.
You're keeping a record?
Yeah, we keep a record. We profile whoever gets involved in this criminality.
Okay. Some of your members, the protection team of your party president, turned their guns on, not literally, not guns, in massacre on journalists reporting for different media houses. And today I have seen a statement from your party, basically trying to deny responsibility and tag these journalism practitioners as political actors who are doing something different. I have the statement here. I will ask that they display that and the response from the National Association of Broadcasters in response to that attack. I'll just speak. We have taken note of various statements made by some people alleging that on 18th May 2024, during a burial in Luengo district, some journalists were hurt by part of our security team. When these allegations came to our attention, our communications team, led by the party spokesperson, reached out to the journalists who made those claims, those whom they accused, as well as other people who attended the event. The versions of what transpired are different. The onlookers who we spoke to, as well as the accused persons, all denied that such an attack took place. We reached out to and requested the affected persons who claimed to have video evidence to provide it. They haven't provided it yet. We are very concerned that some of the journalists, in quotes, who have struggled to drive this narrative are actually political actors working for the detractors of our party at different levels. Some have always used their social media pages to attack and disparage our party and its leadership. In the absence of any evidence linking our teams to any wrongdoing, we have every reason to believe that the whole story is cooked and politically motivated. Cooked and politically motivated, but you said you spoke to the journalists who said they had been attacked. In fact, some journalists confessed that the camera apparently paraded as having been vandalized was never at the scene. It was an old, faulty camera paraded to support the world claims. National Unity Platform firmly believes in media freedoms and would be the last to condone an attack on the media. We are proud of the cordial and respectful relationship we have built with the media and over time, and this is something we shall guard with everything. If anyone has evidence that any of our team members conducted themselves wrongly, you are encouraged to send it to us, and action will be taken swiftly. I've been reading this statement. I've read it over and over again and checked with professional media practitioners. I'm saying, what exactly is Noop trying to say of an incident that now is the subject of a complaint?
Yes.
I'll read for you in a moment the complaint, the response. The camera is here, I have it, and the statement from the National Association of Broadcasters on that attack on media practitioners, because we're getting into a very critical political season, and the safety of journalism practitioners everywhere and with every political party is critical at this time. NAB issued a statement and said, condemnation of violence against journalists. The National Association of Broadcasters has recently received reports from our journalists within the Greater Masaka region, Greater Masaka Journalists Association, regarding an alleged attack by the security team of the principal of the National Unity Platform. NAB unequivocally condemns any acts of violence against journalists and media practitioners. Such actions are not only reprehensible, but also a direct violation of the rights granted to the media and the press under the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Journalists play a crucial role as the fourth estate in upholding democracy. Any hindrance to their work is a threat to the foundational principles of a free society. We call upon NUP to address these serious allegations promptly and with the gravity they deserve. It is imperative that they are reported, that any reported complaints be investigated thoroughly and remedial actions be taken accordingly. The safety and freedom of journalists must be respected and protected at all times.
Yes, you said you have read it over and over again.
Yes.
That same letter you have read, like it was supposed to be the reverse. It ought to have been the investigation, then they pronounced themselves on the matter.
Absolutely.
Yes, they started with the condemning note, then they concluded by saying,
the letter I have read over and over,
but
the news letter.
No, I can say so. You have read two letters.
Starts
and I'm not somewhere you are a journalist.
Yes, I am.
I would also think that you'd give me an opportunity to respond to what you have said.
But I'm explaining.
But I do agree with on the last letter to the effect that NAB first condemns no. Then later it says they should actually investigate. So, but on the other hand, on our letter. We are only saying that it is our word against theirs. That's why we have said there's need of an investigation. And as a political organization, first we condemn those acts if at all they occurred. But because we don't want to take such an emotional type of position, that's why the letter is very clear.
I'll read that later again.
We are going to investigate. We shall pronounce ourselves in finality after the investigation.
I see some of the paragraphs in your letter have drawn conclusions before investigating. That's my interpretation. Let's pick it up after a very short commercial break. Discussing the mobilization, the countrywide tours for mobilization by political leaders, particularly Dr. Kiza Besigye and Robert Sentamu Kyagulanyi, and the other players as well. The ANT team of Major General Mugisha Muntu has been out mobilizing. Honorable Paul Muir, I just looked at the statement again, and the condemnation is on the attack of the journalists. And the group accused, as of the information available, is the security team of your principal in Masaka.
Yes.
Yes.
But the statement is very clear. It is saying, you see, it is their word against ours.
Your statement,
and that's why we are saying
your statement
we are going
is
to carry
dismissive.
out no, it isn't.
It is dismissive. It accuses them of being political. And I overheard in the break people asking you, don't you have journalists you feel are more friendly to your group that...
Maybe I want to bring back to the proper perspective that the letter is to the effect that we condemn such acts that, if at all they actually happened, and we have taken trouble to investigate the same. We say we shall issue the statement on the finality of the investigation, but in the circumstances, we're also looking at the character of people. What is their history in complaint? Maybe what we will have read to that. But I want maybe to raise this matter in this way, to say that since the statement has been issued and has promised a conclusive position after the investigation, I think it's only fair to us that we wait for the outcome of the investigations, because the media, the fourth estate, is part of our pattern in whatever we have been doing, and we don't have any reason as to why we should really take that direction. So the part has been very clear. The investigation will take place, and we shall pronounce ourselves on that. But I only brought out the other letter which you read. Maybe if you read the first paragraph, it would also jump at the conclusion, don't call for an investigation. I think we should wait for the investigation of the two, and we would be happier to harmonize and then we move on. If there are wrongs made, we can own up and then move on. If there is none, then we also have to investigate the root cause of that.
The National Association of Broadcasters has recently received reports from our journalists within the Greater Masaka Journalists Association regarding an alleged attack by the security team of the principal of the National Unity Platform.
Yes.
NAB unequivocally condemns any acts of violence against journalists and media practitioners. Is that
Just
what
like
you're
us.
with?
Just like us.
I'll read a little bit from your statement, because I have it here. We have taken note of various statements made by some people alleging that on 18th May 2024, during a burial in Luengo district, some journalists were hurt by part of our security team. When these allegations came to our attention, our communications team, led by the party spokesperson, reached out to the journalists who made these claims, those whom they accused, as well as other people who attended the event. You notice the drift here.
Yes.
The versions of what transpired are very different. The onlookers whom we spoke to, as well as the accused persons, all deny that such attack took place. So you're saying the journalists you spoke to lied. We reached out and requested the affected persons who claimed to have video evidence to provide it. They haven't provided it yet.
Yes.
We are very concerned that some of the journalists in quotes who have struggled to drive the narrative are actually political actors working for the detractors of our party at different levels. This is very conclusive, isn't it?
No, continue.
Some have always used their social media pages to attack and disparage our party and its leadership. In the absence of any evidence linking our teams to any wrongdoing, we have every reason to believe that the whole story is cooked and politically motivated.
Yes.
But you said you spoke to people who said they had been attacked.
And
You said, the statement says.
yes, and it says they haven't produced the evidence.
And then you say the information was cooked. In fact, some journalists confessed that the camera apparently paraded as having been vandalized was never at the scene. It was an old faulty camera paraded to support the world claims. The National Unity Platform, now you come to the promise of the investigation.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think, Charles, as I conclude on this matter, I think you know that even if one went to court the law requires that one, you must produce the person who got the footage. Two, you need to look at the equipment which was used. And I think for me, I don't want to take it because you see the fourth step, they are partners in what we do. You understand? I don't want to cause some imaginary source that maybe the issues before concluding the investigations, which we can't resolve. I think let's give that opportunity, that process, an opportunity to see how we conclude on that matter.
As a journalism practitioner who has actually been in the field covering political activities of different political parties, I think this is me.
Yes.
This statement was a bit rushed, but let me not say so much because I have journalism practitioners who are also political actors. They possibly have their own take. Let me come to the Honorable Ssemuju And Hon. One little bit on this attack on the journalists, but also on the mobilization that your group is leading so far.
All the people who have contested the elections against Museveni did not lose because they didn't have support. Elections we've contested, I think now more than 4 times, are all elections that have been either directly cheated, the outcome, or influenced. The tear gas maybe is even more bearable. People have been shot and killed, and those who have killed them have been on TV celebrating their death. The FDC activities is not mobilization for elections. I have seen you all the time trying to relate our movement around the country with the election 2026 election. It has nothing to do with the elections. Everywhere we have gone, 2 issues. First, our party was nearly taken over by Museveni. And we said when the FDC leaders gathered in Kampala made a decision either to form a new party, join genuine opposition political parties, form so these consultations you are involved in are consultations first to resolve the problems afflicting the FDC as a political institution at the moment. At the beginning, we actually had wanted to limit these consultations with FDC leaders, but in some meetings you had supporters also turning up. So we eventually took a decision that where possible we'll do both. Where it is not possible, we will combine like we did in Masaka. And the message from Dr. Kizza Besigye is that we need to empower the population to be able to raise even before elections. And for him, that has been his message in all our meetings. The disturbance by police, which we condemn, I think it is only in Masindi where they threw tear gas at us. The rest of the meetings, they have been blocking with vehicles. In Masaka, fortunately, they didn't disturb us until we reached the venue of the meeting. But for me, what bothers me is the direction that the country is taking. And you media are also partly to blame. Because you look at the struggle of the political parties as a mobilization. You go to meet people, you are beaten, you are arrested, and then for you profile it as a normal interaction, mobilizing for elections. What happened in the last election and what has been happening in elections, I don't think Museveni will stop. I did say in the last election that to Mr. Museveni, COVID was God sent, because the restrictions, it helped him justify all the restrictions he had imposed on political competition. With the 80-year-old Museveni wanting to die in office, I think the next election is going to be the most difficult in Uganda. I don't see Museveni allowing competition which he has never allowed and now is extremely vulnerable, because I don't think Museveni has energy to move even a quarter of the country to go and mobilize for support. At least in the past, he has been ferrying people from one area to another to create a semblance of someone supported by the country. I don't think now even has energy. I saw him at a smaller function in Tunam. He had a mask, someone who, because obviously when you're an old man at 80, you'll be fearful. Even as a person is fearful of diseases even before, but now he's extremely more vulnerable. So the next election, and that's why...
And I think I've had somebody use the word hypochondriac, something like that.
Yeah, but you see, if that's how he has...
Somebody who has an extreme fear of disease.
Yeah, but now you combine. You can fear disease when you are still energetic. But when you are Museveni's age, the fear will even multiply.
So I think he's been consistent about that.
He has been his fear has been consistent, but now it is multiplied. And I don't want even to think that the fear has been... I mean, Museveni was in Ruel fighting in the jungle. I don't think there are masks in Ruel.
There was no COVID then.
No, but if you are talking about Museveni fearing disease,
yes.
This one I noticed when I was long ago when we used to go to Rwachitura. I came to realize later that this man must be very selfish, because we used to go and meet in his compound outside, and for him, he would be wearing all the fingers and everywhere he would be covered, shielded against mosquitoes, and for us we are there in mosquitoes, they are biting us. But for me, what I came to realize now, and that is the truth, my own understanding of why President Museveni fears disease. President Museveni, he wants to rule the country forever, for life. And so he feels that
he must protect himself.
He must completely protect himself from any sickness that can cause him any death. For him, he feels that he's in control of his life. He amazes me. And so in order to do that, he must protect himself from any disease, so that he remains alive to rule for life.
Let's have Ssemuju conclude.
Tomorrow will be in Busia at the conclusion of our consultations. So far, where we have gone, the idea is that we abandon the FDC that Museveni has taken over. If we form a new political platform, we will begin mobilization, not mobilization for the next elections. We think an empowered population can raise up against a dictator like they have done elsewhere.
Isn't that a bit of a contradiction? You say you're not mobilizing for the next election, but every year before election year, when President Museveni starts his countrywide tours, you have said that he has started his political mobilization for the next election.
I don't think Museveni mobilizes elections to get support. I don't think so. And I have never said that. Because Museveni knows if the competition becomes tight, he will beat you, he will arrest you, he will even shoot you.
Let me have Oko come in. He's been quiet for a long time. And Marlon, let me see. Someone here called sent us a message welcoming Oko back to the show. Let me just pick that up in a moment. My apologies. Yes, somebody called Nanda Malon says, welcome back, we missed you seriously. He says, please tell Charles to give the panelists more time when they are answering his questions. He has a bad habit of always interjecting and disorganizing their flow of response. And he says his questions are good, but after asking them, he keeps interjecting. So Malon, I've taken note of that. Please.
Well, thank you. I've been away for a while in Kapelebion, taking reprieve of the monotonous debate. And today's show hasn't disappointed me in that direction. But let me first respond to my young brother, the academician, the critic, the analyst, in your view. He accuses me of being troubled. No, I'm not. Actually, if you understand NRM very well, the real ideologues of NRM, or the people you call cadres, the practice ought to be self-criticism, open criticism, constructive criticism, so that we are able by ourselves to admit wrongs, like the ones we are pointing. If we are allowed to register political parties, why would the police throw tear gas canisters if they are professional? If there is a strong command and control over the police, why should there be conflicting commands like the one Muru is describing when they were going to massacre, where the RPC or the police commander stops you and doesn't know why he has stopped you, he can't explain. So admitting mistakes like those should be a pillar and a practice of the real NRM. Maybe you are used to the NRM side where everybody choruses. I'm not that type. I'm not in that league of chorusing. I do internal introspection of the party I belong to and the government I belong to, and I offer open, constructive, and genuine criticism. That's why in the NRM you won't find Ofwono on one side. I don't have factions. I don't belong to any. I don't think I've ever had anybody accusing me. So that's one side. Now, I think the political mobilizations are okay. Whether people are mobilizing to find members, to register members, to expand their base, to articulate positions, or even to start early campaigns for 2026, I have no problem with it. And I think majority of these parties, or party leaders, are doing all those things simultaneously. But they emphasize certain things at certain points or certain time. And you need to take this into consideration when you are making this analysis. I think we have 2 or 3 strands of politics in the country. The first one is the genuine, the old type of politics. And that's why some of you say, is there multi-party politics actually in Uganda? Is NRM a political party? Is FDC a political party? They are political parties, first of all, because they are registered according to the law. So that alone makes them political parties. There's no law in Uganda which describes that all political parties should behave the same way. We can choose to be a political party of only one issue, and also of only one. Unfortunately, we're making the law that political party should be national. I don't know even why. Even if a political party decided to be a political party of Toro, for me, I would have no issues with it. What I may have disquiet with it may be if it is sectarian, if it is championing negative issues, maybe. But what is negative anyway? So these are political parties run differently. We are not supposed to run NRM according to Seru Kuma's thinking. So NRM is a political party. Whether you say it is a political party fused with the state, yes, we are partly fused with the state because we are the controlling party of the government. And so we have been here long. So over time, maybe we shall distill, we shall separate NRM from the state eventually, using both the law but also the practice. How do you distinguish between Museveni, who came here 38 years ago and has built this army? Many of the soldiers, many of the army people, many of the people in the security are still living. So they are likely to see him as their parent, their godfather. If it wasn't him, I wouldn't be. So that one we expect. It's going to take a bit of time. Maybe 50 years, you remember, Honorable has told you, NRM was going to lead for 50 years.
Was it in
now, yes, Honorable Amambazi. Now I can tell you, I think we are going to stretch far beyond that. Those who say Yoweri Museveni is old, yes, obviously he's old. All of us are older than yesterday. But NRM is now a system. We need to perfect that system so that even when it has an aged president like Yoweri Museveni, he may not be able to travel physically to every place, but there must be a political party machinery to campaign for him, especially in this era of the digital world, the media world. You don't expect Joe Biden to run through all the 52 states in America. No, there will be machinery. So even when you don't see Museveni, the person in Arua, he will be on radio, all his agents will be on radio, the party agents will be on radio, they will be on social media, they will be on the ground. So you don't have to see the physical Museveni like you saw him in 1996. No, don't expect that. And I think even for MPs shouldn't be so. This idea of MPs going to every barrio as a campaign platform, no, you don't have to do that. So that's the one. But what is happening in the country? I said there are people there are party leaders who have agreed to agree on minimum procedure issues with the police. Part of FDC, you have heard Honorable Ssemuju saying they haven't been as disrupted as probably they thought. Partly because I think they have informed and harmonized their activities with the main police headquarters, but also with the territorial police officers and commanders.
Have you done that?
True.
Certainly, yes.
Major General Mugisha Muntu, you have not had him being disrupted. I think because coming from the tradition of a disciplined person as an individual, but also a former army command, he knows the consequences of being indisciplined, both to his own group, but also to the country. And consequently, he does things differently. You have not seen. You have seen NRM, they're the ones in government. But I don't think the NRM people, that the Secretary General of NRM, can go to Arua and does not inform the local area leaders, be it RDC or Chairman LC5 or the police, that I'm going to have an indoor meeting. I don't think he can do so. I don't think he can behave with impunity. But there are groups that have chosen to behave with impunity. I understand that a year ago when they suspended, I think maybe that's what maybe somebody mischaracterizes as a ban. When they suspended, when they stopped no countrywide tour, I think that was after Luero of Masinde, where there were conflicts, including road accidents. They had written to them, I'm told, 7 areas of harmonization, which to date, NUP is disagreeing with. For what reason, I don't know. And consequently, NUP has adopted, I think including this one of Ginger, have adopted roadside shows, which then attract crowds, convoys, and stoppages, including disruption on public roads and so on and so forth. And I think that's the area of conflict with the police, which for me, I would implore police management not to fall onto their side, to fall prey to their trappings, like they did in 2020, because that's actually what catapulted NUP into popularity, the unnecessary confrontations. Yes. I think the police management ought to review and say, if these people are obstinate, they are adamant, they don't want to comply, let us allow them move and we keep an eye on them. If we think they are going to have wrong behavior, we wait for them. We can even have camera, you capture them when they are committing crime. Then there, when you intervene, you will be intervening with evidence, physical evidence.
Actually, that's what the law says.
Yes. So for me, I would implore police management, and I'm going to take it up with them, that probably you don't need to fall. You remember the other time, I said on this show, and at that time you disputed when Honorable Amriat kicked off his shoes. Honorable Ssemuju was his biggest defender. 2-3 years down the road, Honorable Ssemuju now accuses Amriat that he was acting, he had got money from Museveni. This is what Honorable Ssemuju is now saying, that Amriat was actually not a genuine candidate in that election. So probably some of these people are also acting in the way Amriat is. And when you say this impact, what is happening in the FDC and in MOP in particular, and soon you are going to see it in BP, they are trying to deflect the internal conflict that has been raging over the last 4-5 months. So this regulation of tours is actually one way to run away from sorting out internal issues and the one you are referring to, the beating up in Masaka and so on and so forth. So MOP is trying to take the diversion of Jinja so that they are not in Buganda where the confrontation is. They're trying to go into Busoga and other places. FDC is doing a similar thing. FDC is doing a similar thing. That instead of confronting what is in Kampala and in Najana Nkumbi, they choose to go to Kabale, they choose to go where they know. These are the issues of Okubikirira. So part of the so-called mobilization is actually a deflection, is a diversion away from where you, the media people, have been holding them. Let me hear the gentleman. Have been holding them. The gentleman. So that's really my take. But whatever it is, the NRM is ready. The only thing I will implore NRM not to lay itself bare, so that even false accusations are made and we can't explain logically why certain actions are being taken in the name of the NRM when the NRM actually has the ground. Those who say the NRM doesn't have the ground, I just wish them well. Yeah.
The president traditionally does that national tour. He's not done one. So
well, you have said that he does it a year to election. It is not yet a year to election.
No, a year to election, to the election year, the campaign year, not the election year.
No, never. But we have always done the January or December of 1 year to election because we put together our membership registration and starting of renewal of members from the village level to the national level, which usually run between February or March and concludes the first week of September, around there, because that's when we hold our national delegates conference.
There are tours that he does, National Wealth Mobilization tour.
But the president is actually doing. You haven't seen him commissioning factories. You haven't seen him commissioning roads, or in these days delegating the vice president or the prime minister. All those are agents of the president of Uganda, who happens to be the chairman of the NRM. And if the NRM wants him to be a candidate, or the NRM is going to have a presidential candidate, they are going to run on some of the policy implementations that we are currently doing.
Yusuf wanted to jump in. Yusuf, I'll give you 2 minutes because I'll have to take a break in about 3.
I wanted to say the quick thing about Uganda. NUP has done the countrywide tours before. There was no internal wrangling within NUP then.
You didn't know.
No.
No, you didn't know. Unless you remember, I can tell you. This wrangle, which has just exploded, but it began more than a year ago.
But while they were free to go around elsewhere in the country, they couldn't be allowed to come to Uganda. And the reason is simple. It is not because there's internal wrangling and they're being distracted by going there. Because the only way this government can be kicked out of office is not through an election. You are wondering, what if they reach Uganda and they say we are marching up to the square, they don't leave?
Are you saying Uganda is
that is your fear
next to the country?
Every political action is in the center of the country, and this is Kampala. Charles, while NUP was mobilizing in the previous countrywide tour, all of us were wondering, would they be allowed to reach Uganda? But also you need to remember that then, even the first son was going around the country, so the security forces were put in a pickle. What should we do? Because the young man is going around throwing birthdays, which actually look like political campaigns. We can't stop the others. What is happening now with the early throwing of tear gas is because NUP is doing it alone. See, then there was competitions, and the security forces couldn't just allow any. It wasn't PLU then. I don't know what it was called. Moses' birthdays. They couldn't allow those.
It was the MK.
It was MK.
Team chairman.
They could not allow those to continue, and at the same time,
stop NUP from doing the same.
Okay, we need to take a quick break. Honorable Muiru, Dr. Matembe, and Honorable Ssemuju, I'll come back to you. But Human Rights Network for Journalists has helped with their own report on that incident in a report they filed on the 20th of May 2024. And they say Margaret Kayondo and Zainab Namusazi, reporters for Radio Simba and NBS respectively, faced an assault on May 18th, 2024, allegedly by vigilantes safeguarding Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, also known as Bobi Wine, the president of Uganda's National Unity Platform, the country's largest opposition political party. This is from Human Rights Network for Journalists. Mr. OO discusses with hindsight, depth of lived history, attacks the issue but not individuals. We ought to celebrate this son of Mulanda. Agava Ronald Bills watching us. I have Ssemuju and let Mr. Ssemuju and answer my question. If Mr. Museveni can't allow them to freely express themselves and do whatever they want, as the Constitution says, why do they waste time contesting with him every after 5 years? They even go as far as legitimizing his very government by swearing in as MPs and also appointing leader of opposition and opposition commissioners of parliament. Why William Mubiru in Nabingo?
Even in the campaigns, I'm always asked, and my answer, seeking for good governance is like looking for wealth. If you don't get it this year, you don't go home to sleep. You must continue battering. The people of Libya struggled with Gaddafi for 43 years. Egypt, 38 with Mubarak. I think Sudan was about 26. We were not the ones who started the struggle against Museveni. He came here when I was 12 years old. We will continue battering, even after Museveni. I'm not I mean, I can't guarantee that after Museveni things will be okay. General Mut told me they thought that when you remove Obote things will be okay. They didn't know. Basically, when he was leaving his profession, abandoning his profession to go to Ruel, I don't think he thought that after some years in the government, then he will be fighting his own government. So the issues for which we are fighting are issues that may end with the departure of Museveni, but also issues that may reoccur. So contesting elections, by the way, in the past, was the only period when you are going to freely be allowed to go and speak and raise the civic competence of the population. And that's why, after election, the very first that I participated in, the general mobilization that we did was able to sustain walk to work at least for some days. So you struggle during the normal days to go and do general mobilization, but it is criminalized almost. During election, they can allow you some space to go and
from where you sit, what nature of campaigns do you think this country will have next year?
As I said earlier, Museveni restricted campaigns in the last elections under the name of COVID. Of course, generally we had COVID, but he took full advantage of COVID. We are now dealing with a completely different Museveni. As I said, this old 80-year-old, he will be 80 this year. And that's why maybe I started assigning Alupo and Nabanja. I don't think Museveni has the confidence to allow, because he has not built an institution called the NRM. A very simple disagreement, because his nature of campaign, and I'm speaking now as a journalist, everywhere he went, the first meeting was to resolve conflicts. He sits with everybody, you are appointed, you are a DC, you are appointed, you are ambassador. That was the style of his campaign. Then he goes to address a rally. But there were conflicts almost everywhere he went. Now you have two things. You have an old Museveni, but one who thinks that if another round of COVID may not allow me to continue. A masked Museveni, even when he goes for a simple meeting like in Tungam, he was in a mask. You think you are going to do presidential campaign in a mask? This is going to be the most restrictive if it ever happens.
Dr. Matembe, what nature of campaign are we likely to have next year?
First of all, I would like to answer that man who was asking why do they contest? Actually, if we, as Ugandans, I think many Ugandans who do believe and know that elections do not yield anything for us, and yet they consume a lot of money and cause torture and injury and imprisonment to our people. If we had powers and authority, elections would not take place in this country, because it is a fact that as long as President Museveni is alive and wants to rule this country, he can never be removed by any elections. That one is a deal. What do they call it? A done deal. These elections, which and that's why some of us are so hurt and broken-hearted about our country, Uganda. Because when President Museveni came, when he was saying clearly that democracy should not be in a form, democracy should be in substance, should not be what? Should not be in a form, but should be in substance. And the way he was condemning all these people like Saddam Hussein, who used to get 99%, to see that it is right now President Museveni who is talking of democracy, which is in form and not substance. That's why some of us are so pained and so hurt and totally disappointed and feel sorry for people who went to the bush and fought all these refugees, all these Muntu, all these, I usually pity him and I say, at least for me, I didn't go to fight. And secondly, when the president came and opened the political space, for me, I was able to realize my dream, which dream was about fighting for gender equality and women's empowerment and justice and fairness in general terms. The dream I realized because of the political environment that was there at that time. If you remember what the political environment was, where civil society rose up, where we would support government and we move forward, where we would demonstrate, where we would do all these things. Now it is complete shut, civic space completely shut, the voice of the people totally shut, and militarism and police, militarization of elections, monetarization of elections and militarization of the country. So elections mean nothing. The truth is elections in this country mean nothing except that they pain us more than they gain us in terms of resources and in terms of whatever, of imprisoning the people. Nevertheless, you can't give up. Martin, is it
Martin Luther
Jr., who said that if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But at least continue moving. That's why these people have to continue. Giving up, winners are not, quitters don't win. So winners don't quit. So irrespective of whatever, we must persevere, we must continue, and one day something will happen. As to how the elections will be, I don't expect any, but what I'm thinking, we are just thinking generally. The NRIM, not even NRIM as a movement, but the inside, that family clique of NRIM has a scheme. They have an evil strategy. They want to protect the family of President Museveni to be in power. If President Museveni is not there himself, then as you know, his son must come on board. That is what is out there. That is what is out there. And therefore, they have the plan, a scheme to amend the constitution, and that's why they brought Mao on board. I told Mao here when we were here, I told him that they are bringing you on board. I said I would be sorry to see you destroy our constitution by removing the presidential elections and making it, is it what they call it, parliamentary elections, where they will not elect the president directly. You don't ask her. My brain is telling me, my brain is, because we have seen this man scheme.
I thought you'd seen some blueprint somewhere.
Don't ask me that, gospel viewers. Me, I'm expressing my opinion because of seeing the situation the way it is, the desperation, all this kind of thing. For instance, I want to ask you, you never saw Muhoozi was doing very wrong things, and working, an officer who is still working, going to mobilize and putting all his posters out there. By the way, they are still there. He was doing totally illegal thing. He was never arrested. Nobody could shoot his people. Nobody would do what, and yet
his people say he was just celebrating.
And yet, don't talk to me of that nonsense. Don't provoke me. I'm telling you what was happening. Yes, what Ugandans were seeing. Don't tell me his people are nonsense also. So what I want to say is, you can see in Uganda, NUP is a party. Legally registered, and all these parties. So they have a right to go and meet their people, make rallies, mobilize, but they are constrained and they are stopped and they are tortured and are suffering. Yet, the one who is clearly in public breaking the law legally. In fact, I was here on Frontline. I said, actually, he should be prosecuted for attempted coup, because he was there saying he wants to remove this president who is not doing well, and yet they left him, and instead they made him an army commander. Now, so when you are here discussing Uganda matters, just when I say I leave Uganda matters to God, I'm very, very right. Because what can you do with what is going on?
Before, just a second. You see, the one area where I agree with you, Matembe, and maybe many in the country, is that if you go back to the Electoral Commission strategic plan for 2 years, it's going to cost 2.5 trillion. Elections themselves are going to cost 1.3 trillion. And then you ask yourself whether there is a value in the investment you are making in these elections, because you know that they are going to be cheated. And asking about the kind, of course, Museveni will cheat elections. He will cheat elections.
How come this same Museveni doesn't cheat Ssemuju's election that brings him from Kira municipality into parliament?
Even Obote didn't cheat.
Or Paul Muiru's election.
Even Obote didn't cheat in every constituency. There are constituencies. In the last election, I had 45,000 votes. The NRM candidate had less than 10,000. There, even if you are a professional cheat, you will not be able to change everything. But there are areas, because he wants to get the big percentage that will make him the president, he will not go and cheat everywhere. But also he wants to create an impression. The question you're asking is also intended that if you are saying I am cheating, how comes for you were in parliament? Because you are dealing with people who are intelligent. But finally, even the NRM themselves, these ones you see proclaiming Muhoozi as a standby generator, they also are aware that they are dealing with a delicate position of a person they know has grown very old, he can't campaign. They're not even sure that he still has the energy to cheat elections. Maybe someone else should do the work. So that's why you see them singing the standby generator. Maybe they think the generator should be the one.
Are you suggesting that he was doing the cheating himself? I thought the machinery that campaigns for him.
Yeah, but he was commanding the cheating. You think the cheating was happening without his knowledge? He was the one commanding the cheating.
Let me hear from Honorable Paul Muiru, then we'll go back as...
Finish.
Well, first I want to correct the impression created by my friend Honorable Opondo that you see NOP is running away from Uganda going to another area. That's not correct, because if you look at our tour, round 2 of the tour, we are doing Kamuli, Bugweri, Palisa Tororo, then 27th, Mitiana, we are in Mukono, 29th, we are in Masaka, we are in Chotera, and Bukomansin. So that is the round 2.
You would have tested the ground, they say.
No, we shall come.
You use
Anyway, Mr. Ofwono Opondo. I know Mr. Ofwono Opondo.
He's bullying you.
No, the confusion is in Imagine, is in his head. So I want to now to get back to the question by the moderator. About 2026. You see, to me, it can be a revolutionary moment in terms of participation. I've seen shifts, paradigm shifts in terms of support. When we used to do politics here, the biggest percentage of support used to come from the north. Until Mr. Museveni almost would spend almost a big percentage of the budget under no support, all the programs were going to the north, to ensure that actually it would compromise in that direction. TESO has ever been part of the opposition. In the previous section of 2021, they did not know that actually Busoga would shift to the opposition. And for me, yes, Busoga, you lost to Busoga. And
that's why you're in parliament. You lost Busoga because you're in parliament because you lost Busoga?
No, actually,
are you in parliament?
No, I'm not. Okay. Simply because you also falsified.
Yes.
But you lost Busoga.
Now.
Museveni lost Busoga, NRM won Busoga.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, you lost.
No,
you actually have your time.
No.
You have your time. I'm
not telling lie, I should answer you directly.
No, but Mr. Ofwono, you have been telling lies. I let you, because I know you have your time.
NRM won Busoga.
Mr. Ofwono Opondo, you have your time. So for me, I believe that you see the impunity they have been actually doing. For instance, you have been seeing what have been falsifying results with a lot of ease. When you look at the Ugandan population now, as we are moving, almost 80% are youth. My friend, the Honorable Ofwono Opondo, used to engage in a lot of peddling a lot of lies as a regime apologist. The energy used by them to speak is not what he uses today. Actually, I was even shocked, and I was about to wonder whether you were okay when you were speaking right about what the law says on regulation of public gatherings, because the Ofwono Opondo I knew he wouldn't have been actually, he would be defending the excesses of police. You understand? But I was shocked. I was wondering whether I'm with Ofwono Opondo or I'm with someone, meaning that you see, time has been actually very well. Time has been moving out. You made reference to, we are here 50 now, maybe they extend. When I was starting this show, I made reference to the preamble of our constitution, which talks about our history, and I told you the history of Busoga, of the Teungus, the Uzachiruna, those people who are there.
And the Mwand.
Yes. The way, by the time people use the saw machine to cut someone into pieces, these atrocities and the falsification you are actually boasting about will not be accepted anymore. That's why the Constitution has a provision that you see you have been committing a lot of atrocities when you're in the government, using the gun and the military and everything, and people let you go scot-free. That's why we have actually announced that we are resuming our nationwide tour tomorrow. We are starting with Palisa. We're not going to accept any illegalities by people who are in the government. And to us, we are saying the Constitution as is on, and the law is on our side. So these illegalities you're talking about, which people say they keep on making, time is going to come, my brother Ofwono Opondo, when the public would accept, they will respect you and your right when you act on the right side of the law.
Thank you.
That will defeat elite actually. Even as of yesterday, when we started from Jinja, we kept on asking police. We would go there politely and ask them that what law have we violated? They would say, no, there is an order. So I would ask, can we see the order? Then they would withdraw and let us continue to another level. They will still take us against the population. But we braved those criminal acts of the police, and whoever was involved was profiled. We have the record. At the right time, those people will pay for those illegalities they actually engage in. So for me, the 2026 election can be a trigger for that evolutionary moment.
That is smart enough.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I just want for the record, Muro lost election in Busoga, not because NRM cheated him. And I think that is the beginning.
That's
of
what
also your political end.
I want to deploy your said method. You're actually telling a lie because it was one polling station. You falsified. It's not true that I lost.
Well, the electoral commission didn't declare you. So anyway, the point I'm making is, as a result of you losing from FDC and ANT, you moved on, you are now in NOP. That migration within 2 years speaks volume of what you are seeing on the ground. Yes. But since Ssemuju and Hon Matembe are saying elections at the universal level is cheated, it is too expensive, it is actually the more reason, if Hon Matembe's ears to the ground is accurate, that she thinks there's a scheme to amend the constitution to shift presidential elections to parliament, which would be cheaper. I think any reasonable mind would support a cheaper option instead of spending 2 trillion, which Honorable Ssemuju has quoted, to elect a president.
You read the electoral plan.
No, you have mentioned here the 2 trillion. I haven't seen
2.5.
Now,
They presented that to the parliament.
2.5 trillion. Now, would we be the first country in the world to use parliament or to use electoral college to elect the president? Absolutely not. UK, where we borrow our Commonwealth tradition of election and democracy, they don't even elect the prime minister. The party that wins the majority of members of parliament brings the prime minister. In the US, it is actually electoral college and the men of the jurisdiction. In South Africa here, they don't even cast a vote for the president. So on. In Tanzania, the same thing. In Tanzania now they do. Previously they didn't. So that wouldn't be something out of the blue. If the Parliament of Uganda, which is now the legitimate body to enact laws, thinks that that is the best way to move the country forward, it is entirely in their hands to do so, and Ugandans will follow, because this is the first time that we shall be changing the constitution anyway. Okay. But finally, Muro, you can put threats. Threats is not your monopoly. You can put threats of going to Palestine. We are not going to allow. It takes two to tango. We shall be here to tango with you, with the people of NRM, who also have a feeling and actually equal stake in the country.
Dr.
Don't think that the country is going to run by your will and oblivious of the rest of our interests. Absolutely. I can guarantee that one. And you can take my word to the bank and get cashed.
I'm just amazed at how
Ofwono Opondo again is going to the other Ofwono Opondo.
I'm telling you. No, you try to blackmail. You can't blackmail NRM.
Gentlemen, and we are wrapping up the discussion. Yes,
we shall live to see.
Yes,
we shall live to see.
Yes, Yusuf.
You see,
we're closing out the discussion.
You think wickedness cannot be dealt with.
The Muiru made it
down the road.
I also think Ssemuju did the same. They normally make it easy for all, because when he suggests a cheaper option for holding an election, there's no problem with it. The question we are not asking is why do we hold elections? Because in my opinion, I think even Museveni doesn't like elections. He doesn't. They are laborious. They make him look bad because he has to cheat them. Museveni would happily declare himself like life president. But why do we constantly go back to this election? And you see, one of my problems is, Charles, you didn't give me time to respond to some earlier disdain against analysis, informed analysis. And sometimes our debate is really low. Because you see, Museveni doesn't organize an election because he wants us to vote him in power or because he wants to cheat this election. He organized this election for the legitimacy of the International Monetary Fund to continue lending to him and working with him on the ground that he has the legitimacy of the people. This is why he constantly, painfully, every 5 years had returned to this thing called an election. From his fear of disease, as has been mentioned, I am 100% convinced that Museveni may never have wanted to go back to an election in 2021. I am sure he didn't like it. But you see, because he has to have the legitimacy of the international funders, because what we miss as a populace, and this is my major problem with politics in this country, political actors, is that we don't understand that we are in a colonial enclave which is captured. That everything that we're grappling with in this country, you see, Honorable earlier spoke about the NUP being a fully registered party, receiving funding from the Electoral Commission to continue its activities, and it's the bribe that you get to register political opposition, so that you keep the facade of a democratic institution. You keep the facade of a democratic space, because it is a lie, and we have bought into this lie. We keep promising ourselves, threatening, Museveni is an autocrat, Museveni is an autocrat, and then we claim to work on the principles of democracy. Mulu here started by telling us a very long story about how they were tear gassed and beaten and stopped. What did you expect if this man is an autocrat? A moment you go out knowing we are dealing with an autocrat, you understand he's going to tear gas, he's going to throw in jail, he's going to beat you up. You know he's going to do all those things. So what's the point of telling us this story? Because this story you're telling, Kizza Besigye told the same story. Maybe the people before him told the same story. I think Brother Ssemuju has told this story a very long time. This is the way an autocrat operates. But you need to understand, why does this autocrat often...
So what do you want us to do?
Yeah, this is why I'm coming. Why does this autocrat often step out of the textbook of an autocrat and organize an election? Because this is an extractive outpost. Our banks, our telecoms, our public services is dead. Our coffee, 70% of it is held by foreigners. We need to first of all elevate this debate that when we understand we're dealing with an autocrat, this autocrat is also a worker who often has kept us in a facade. Because as you know, Charles.
Yes, I didn't conclude because...
So what should we do? You're going to conclude with that?